Yo, what is going on, Time Clan? It is your boy King Time X here, back with another video, and this video is long overdue. Today we are going to be doing the next part of What If Deku Was Tatsumaki's brother. But before I roll that intro, I would just like to say join the Discord because there are lots of fun characters there. You guys will be able to communicate with each other, discuss some ideas I have genuinely taken up as well, while others, like some of my mods, will end up helping you tweak it a little bit to make it make more sense, I guess. But yeah, let's just roll that intro now.
In the whipping, I'm whipping the soul out it. Chin the toe when I'm flexing like Pilates. Why you frontin', you act like you somebody. Keep a trail in the ville, how I go by it. I was stuck in the rut, I was nobody. I've been looking for something to go by it. There's an art to the hustle like yo got it. Kick out a kick back and hit like a new shotty. In the whipping, I'm whipping the soul out it. Chin the toe when I'm
The first day at UA was over, and essentially the students were pretty much just getting adjusted to their new classes at UA. When it came on to class 1A though, they were most excited for their class with All Might. Apparently, he was going to be one of the teachers this year. That was all the rage that was being heard all over the school. Well, these were rumors at best so far, but they would soon find out that no, it was actually true. Apparently, All Might was going to be teaching their class Hero Combat Training 101. Zuku would be pretty interested here, especially with the fact that All Might was a teacher. And when it came on to their costumes, Zuku wouldn't be all that flashy here. He would take more after his older sister, and he would just end up wearing a simple dark green jumpsuit with some armor around the vital areas. When it came on to Tatsumaki, she just wore like a dark green or like black dress. Zuku decided to go the more simplistic route as well, considering he relied more on his telekinesis. Zuku would be paired up with Ochako against Bakugo and Ida, who were the villains of this exercise. Zuku weren't really bothered to waste any time though fighting, and he would just fly up to the top floor before opening the window. Obviously, Bakugo would have been upset. He would have been looking for Izuku all this time, only to find out that, well, the heroes had already won. You see, what ended up happening here is that either one have immediately noticed Izuku as soon as he walked in through the window, and he would try to fight Izuku, only to be encased in one of his telekinetic auras, while Ochako would just go over and touch the bomb. It would right then and there secure their victory. Bakugo would roar in anger, while most of Class 1A were pretty underwhelmed with how fast the match went, considering, like, well, yes, it was a pretty sound strategy. At the same time, they could have been a bit more interesting in their fight. It wasn't really even a fight here. Their interest would be, their interest would have immediately been brought all the way back up when they found out that Todoroki, the son of the number 2 hero, was going to have his match next. Surely his would be more interesting than Izuku's own, and sure enough, yes, it was. He ended up literally just showing how much power he had by just immediately freezing the whole place over. And he would just secure the victory right then and there. He would have immobilized the villains, and he would have just walked up to the top floor only to just touch the bomb right then and there, which would have meant that the hero team won. Because of Todoroki's stunt, this would have actually helped him to, well, secure the role as class president the next day. Azuku would not really care all that much about not winning class president though, and he would just move on with his day. He would actually be able to befriend Ochako and Ida here. Todoroki would actually also sit with the group here, considering the fact that, well, Azuku was the sibling of one of the top rising heroes in this generation so far. She was really gunning in for like the top 10 right now. She was already like in the top 20s, like top 20s or like 30s so far. And she had only recently joined the hero industry compared to people like Endeavor. It seemed like she was going to really topple that sort of hierarchy where it was always All Might was number one and Endeavor was always number two. Everyone else, it could just be wishy-washy, but those two were a constant. It seemed that she was going to mess up that sort of system, and Todoroki honestly felt that Azuku was going to be the next sort of person to do that as well. He saw that Azuku held a lot of potential, and on top of that, Azuku was that girl's brother. Surely he must have had some strong genes as well. And he felt that she probably would have trained him as well over these years. So he felt that he could have had some sort of connection with Azuku basically. The boy might have been a bit more relatable essentially. And before he could really get to talk with Azuku much, the alarm would have immediately went off. Everyone would begin to run and they would be panicking this whole time. Azuku would just keep calm and float to the top. He would see what was happening outside of one of the windows and he would just grab everybody's attention, informing them of the fact that it was only the press, nothing to really be worried about. Everyone would hear this and of course they would just begin to calm down. They would look out the windows of course and yeah, they would see that it was just the press. The heroes were basically trying to hold them back, and the students would immediately calm down thinking that hey, it's just the press. At first they thought that villains were attacking the school, but no. The press just managed to break through security just this one time. Probably a fluke at best. Azuku would end up becoming class president here, since Todoroki didn't really want it in the first place, and with Azuku's stunt back there, it seemed that he had some better leadership skills than he did. Azuku would just shrug and take the role, but the class did not really have any issues with this because yeah, they had to agree. Azuku did show that he was more of a calm, collected figure, even in these sort of times where everybody was panicking, something that they really admired. Azuku and the rest of the class would then leave to go on a field trip of sorts. While on the bus ride, the people would actually begin to ask Azuku about his quirk. Todoroki would also be interested here since Azuku seemed to use his quirk similar to his oldest sister at times, while other times it almost seemed that he just used it more like an enhancer quirk, sort of like tactile telekinesis. He basically seemed to keep his quirk close to his body at times, not really trying to levitate most things, which kind of confused them. Zuku would just explain that he had a simple telekinesis quirk, which, unlike his older sister, wasn't always so strong, so he had to train with her to fix that issue. One of Todoroki's curiosities would have been answered right then and there. But on top of that, Zuku would also mention that he used to watch a lot of clips of All Might, and he would have become inspired to model some of his moves after the man, having more of a tactile telekinetic sort of feel, which Looking back at it, the students would begin to see that, yeah, Izuku did kind of use like some punches or something. Although they wish they could have seen more of it in the combat training. Perhaps they'll be able to see it later, maybe during this field trip of sorts, whatever they're going to be doing at this trip, or maybe in the future, I guess. Izuku would just mention though that even with all of his training, he still had limits. Since, well, if he was capable of doing that, if he was capable of doing the same sort of stuff as his sister, he would have just lifted up the 0 pointer and destroy it right then and there, so it would be in absolutely no one's way. Everyone would understand where Zuko was coming from, and then they would ask about how cool Tatsumaki was. They wanted to know all of his experiences with his sister, all of those sort of stuff. Azuku would immediately get overwhelmed, but they'll be saved by the fact the bus made it to the USJ. They would have been informed of their training exercise, and Kirishima would point out how there were seemingly Fox villains there. Or like fake villains, maybe like some people who were dressing up to be villains. That's pretty much what was going through Kirishima's psyche at the moment. But Aizawa would turn around and realize that no, these were actually real villains, these were intruders. He would inform everyone of the fact that these were actual threats and that they needed to get out of here as fast as possible. It would be best if everyone were able to get away from there, but unfortunately, even when they tried to do this, they would still end up getting teleported to different areas anyway. Azuku would be with Tsuyu here, but Azuku would honestly show no mercy against the villains, taking a page out from his sister's book. Multiple villains would have been lifted up out from the sea area, and they would begin to panic since they were pretty much floating all of a sudden. They weren't prepared for anything along these lines. They would have been crushed while trapped in Azuku's telekinesis, shocking Tsuyu considering how violent he was right then and there. He would do this a good few more times before the sea was stained red. Azuku would grab Tsuyu in his telekinesis and they would fly over to the shore. Tsuyu would be more wary of Azuku now, seeing as how quickly he was willing to just kill. Azuku would see what was happening to Aizawa and they would try to fight the Nomu, only to be shocked seeing how, easily they were able to break through his barriers. Azuku was keeping his telekinesis close to his skin here in order to amplify his physical strength, but it didn't seem to really have much of an effect on the Nomu. Even when he switched tactics and tried ripping apart the Nomu, they simply continued to regenerate and eventually they would just grab Azuku by the face. Azuku was beginning to panic now himself. He was doing his very best in order to push the Nomu back, but nothing was working. Right as the Nomu was beginning to strengthen their grip on the greenhead boy's face, the sound of glass breaking could be heard. The Nomu screamed as they let go of Azuku. The Nomu was being lifted up into the air. Azuku looked up and he would see that the Nomu was being ripped to shreds by his older sister. No matter how many times the Nomu tried regenerating, Tatsumaki would use it to her advantage and force the Nomu to endure more suffering, being torn to shreds over and over again until she overclocked the Nomu's own regeneration quirk. A mass of guts and rims would be thrown into the downpour area, and they would sink to the bottom before Tatsumaki would just turn and face Izuku's direction. She would point to him and inform him of the fact that he had a lot of explaining to do when he got home before she herself ended up leaving. Izuku would sigh. His older sister came in clutch once again.